to Knit Tea Live. Welcome. If you are just tuning in, a quick thing, please say hi to me. Let me know that you're here. And also, as always at the beginning, I don't always say it, but I should. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up and let me know if you have any technical problems, like there's a delay, you can't hear me, whatever it is, because I can't actually see or hear what you do. Anyway, so welcome to Knit Tea Live. I hope that you're having a wonderful weekend as we head into the are we heading into the last week of May? Holy crumb, we are. We are heading into the last full week of May. By the way, I have my coffee this morning in my favorite Contigo mug. So today's, I'm going to be honest, I almost canceled Knit Tea Live today. I almost said, I don't know. Not this morning. I knew I was going to do it this morning, but yesterday I was really going, oh God, I don't know if I have anything to talk about. I don't know if I'm going to, if I'm prepared for this. But inspiration struck. The universe gave me an answer because I came across a pearl of wisdom about joy and what can steal our joy. And it got me thinking about that in terms of crafting. So today we're going to talk about the things that can steal our crafting joy. And I would love to hear from you if you're watching now live or if you're watching on the replay. I'd love to hear from you. What are the things at times that steal your crafting joy? And then, what are our solutions to getting our mojo back when that happens? So that's what we're going to talk about today. We'll do a little bit of a pattern spotlight. I have a confession to make. I still haven't updated Fiber Happenings this weekend. Oh my gosh. I can explain the reason why. It's just been a very busy weekend for me. Very busy time in my life with the paying gig. And this was just one of those weeks where I didn't have a ton of energy. And that was just the thing that has fallen through the cracks for me this week. I'm going to do it today. I'm going to do the update after finish up live stream, but we will do a little pattern spotlight. I will show the pattern, the new pattern that is going to be going up on Fiber Happening. So we're still going to spotlight that and do all of that good stuff. So that is all still happening. So also, sorry, coffee spilling. So quick thing too, if you are watching on the replay and you want to skip around the video, I will have timestamps down below for various segments of the video. I am going to now grab my phone so I can write notes for when I need to do some quick breaks, if I remember to do. But I will. I'm starting to put timestamps down in the description box for a replay. So if you want to skip to different parts of the video, you can easily find those sections of it. You can skip some of my opening rambling, which tends to happen. Speaking of opening rambling, oh God, I need to vent about this real quick. Just real quick. So I'm about to hop on to the live stream. And, I've been getting things set up. I'm still recovering from my sprained ankle. I'm humbling around. And I look down to go to my phone to tweet out that the live stream is going to be starting, which I've started to do. And I see I have an IM from my nephew. My nephew, he's in his mid-20s now, early mid-20s, just got out of the Navy. He's going to be starting college soon. He's been having the most amazing adventure, which is he's been hiking the Pacific Trail, which is amazing. But he is right now at the LAX airport, which I wasn't fully cognizant of, but even though I probably should have been. But anyway, as it turns out, I get an IM from him, and he's at the LAX airport, and he has DM'd me asking if I can come get him to take him to REI and the train station because he's taking a train back to where his current base is because he's not completely out of the Navy yet, I guess. But anyway, I'm a little confused about all that. But I'm like, I'm going on a live stream in like 5 minutes. Like, I had no idea that you were flying into LAX today. I had no idea. I had no idea the time you'd be at LAX. And I had no idea that you needed to get to REI or a train station. And it was just like one of those moments. And this is something that it's like, youngins, plan ahead. Like, if you're going to need that kind of help, which I wish I could have helped. But like my husband and my daughter are at the park right now because that's what happens on Sundays. I have my planned knit tea live, which I now am doing like every other Sunday. And someday when this paying gig wraps up, I will get back to doing every Sunday. I'm like, you can't text me at the drop of a hat and ask me to like go to LAX. Which, let me tell you something, going to LAX is not like an easy thing, ever, under the best of circumstances. So it was just like, so that's happened just before I went live. He DM'd me, before I even had a chance to respond though, he DM'd me and he's like, never mind, I figured it out. I was like, okay, good, because I have a life. And I gotta tell you, that sort of thing steals my joy. I will say, that sort of thing, my family, I love my family to pieces. I love my family to pieces. But this is something that they do. Not just the youngins. Like, and this is something that goes on in my family where I get phone calls, last minute phone calls, going, hey, I'm at the airport, come get me. Or, hey, this is going on. And it's like, I didn't know any of this was going on. You didn't tell me. And now, like, I have things going on. I can't just drop everything. Anyway. And that just steals my joy because then I feel badly because it's like, oh, I'm not being there for my family. And I want to be there for my family. But, anyway, that was my little, like, mini drama just before hopping on. Hello, Evie. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. I just got to show that there. Evie, who's such a wonderful supporter of my channel. I feel like has been a real champion of mine. I so appreciate you. Evie's channel is amazing. If you're into spinning or fiber or you just like a really lovely personality to hang out with, check out Evie's channel. I don't which is JillianEve. So anyway, but I want to hear about the things that steal your joy. And I'm going to tell you the little pearl of wisdom I got. And when I heard this, I just went, wow, I feel red right now. Wow, that resonates with me. I was actually watching a video on curly hair because I've started the curly girl method. That's a whole other thing going on in my life right now. But anyway, I digress. And I was watching this video and somebody was talking about when you first start the curly girl method and looking at other people's pictures, not to compare your hair to other people. And what the person said was, comparison is the thief of joy. And just, like, it was such a light bulb moment. I kind of hate that phrase sometimes because I feel like it's trite, but it was so true. That for me was such a light bulb moment because that is definitely a trap that I personally fall into where I start looking at other people's whatever, other people's knitting, other people's crochet, other people's YouTube channels, whatever it is. I start looking at the things that they're doing and the things that they're accomplishing, and I'm so impressed and I'm so amazed. And then I look at my own thing and I'm just like, wow, I'm not as, gosh, they're just doing so much more than I am or so much better than I am. And it's not true. That's just my own insecurity. But in that moment, my joy is getting like, and it's something I'm doing to myself. No one else is doing that. I'm doing it to myself. I'm stealing joy from myself. And Jillian says, oh, yes, this is such a thing. It is. It's such a thing. I think we all fall into it. I think it's so easy, especially in this day and age of social media. You know, with social media, we are all putting so much of our life out there, but we tend to only put out a certain part of our life out there. We tend to put out the best picture of our life, you know, or in terms of crafting, a lot of times what we're looking at is we're looking at someone's finished object, and we don't necessarily see all of the messiness that led up to that beautiful item. And then we feel like, oh God, but I'm really struggling and nobody else seems to be struggling. No, and we're all struggling. We are all struggling, whether in life or with our crafting, whatever it is, we're all struggling. We all drop stitches. We all make mistakes. We all have to rip back. We all have to tink back. We all have to drop down. This is all very knitting related right now, what I'm saying. But my point is, and that's the thing I always have to remind myself when I fall into the comparison funk. I just made that term up. Copyright, Carrie Kraftke, the comparison funk. When we fall into the comparison funk, we have to remind ourselves that we're doing great. You know, like we don't have to achieve all the things that somebody else has achieved. We were finding joy in what we were making at the time, or I'm saying we, I'm depersonalizing. I was finding joy in the thing that I was making at the time I was making it. When I finish it and I put a picture up of it, other people are going to ooh and ah over my thing, I'm guessing, you know, because let's face it, 98% of the time, everything that we make is super cool. And this is just something I need to work on, which is not falling into the comparison funk, not letting me looking at other people's wonderful items and then feeling less about what I'm doing, because it's not a competition. It's not a race. We do this because it brings us happiness, you know. I will admit that when I do fall into that place, a lot of times that's when I'm like, Carrie, let's just get off social media right now. Let's just get off the social media. Let's just stop looking at the things. Let's refocus, reprioritize on what it is that you're doing, and remember that you really love this thing that you're making, you know? So, yeah. Oh, Jillian's going to be dropping some wisdom right now, so we got to bring this up. JillianEve. We all tend to compare our first mile of the journey to other people's mile 10 or mile 100. Yes, no one's journey is the same, and none of us are in the same place. 100%. 100%. And that is, it's so funny. I tell this to people all the time when it comes to big life stuff, where it's like, you're on your own journey. You can't compare where you're at to other people. And I think it also speaks to what I was saying, is like, we see the last 10 miles. We didn't see the 100 miles that got you there. It's like, this comes into actually when you're first learning how to do a craft, like knitting or crochet. And it's something I emphasized a lot in my video on lever knitting, which was when you first learn how to do a craft, you're learning from somebody usually who really knows how to do it. So they look very comfortable and at ease with it. But that wasn't always the case. But when you're first learning and you're seeing other people just very comfortable with the craft that they're doing, and you're struggling and feeling awkward and weird because you don't have the muscle memory yet, it's easy to get frustrated and want to quit. But the thing about it, and this is what I tell them, it's like, look, it wasn't always this easy for me. This took a lot of time and practice on my part to get to where I am now. And the only way I got here was through practice and persistence. So, but everything you're feeling is normal. That awkwardness it's normal. It's part of the process. So, but yeah, it is. It's true. And that is the thing I think that when I'm crafting is I think about sometimes the times that comparison hasn't just stolen joy, but has held me back from trying something or pursuing something sooner. Like even my YouTube channel, I think I could have started this journey sooner had I not sat there and spent a lot of time comparing myself to other people I was seeing on YouTube, where I was like, do I have the personality that they have to pull this off? Man, there's already 20 million videos on a long tail cast on. Who needs to see my video on a long tail cast on, right? Still fall into that, by the way. Still fall into that with videos and video ideas where I'm like, I've seen 20 million videos of this. What do I have to bring to it? And then sometimes I have to remind myself, it's like, but you do have something to bring to this. You have yourself to bring to this. And the reason you started a YouTube video was because you did see things or weren't finding all the material on YouTube or discussing your craft the way that you would like to have it discussed, or, holes in knowledge that you wanted to share, and that's the thing that you can bring to this but I had to really talk myself up into that because I was getting too hung up for too long on, but there's already this going on. Who am I to try to push my way in? And it was just me allowing comparison to steal my joy. And thank goodness I got over that hang up, because I am loving this YouTube. I'm loving this. This has brought me so much joy. Connecting with all of you on YouTube and through my social media has brought me so much joy this past little over a year now, about a year and a half now, that it's I don't regret necessarily that I didn't start sooner, because I think I started at the time that I was ready to start. But yeah, I can't imagine my life right now without this. That's all I gotta say on that. Kathleen Fry. And now there's a lack of channels that I don't have to be afraid of from Rab screenshots. So I'm super grateful for the ones I know are safe. Oh, thank you so much, Kathleen. Yes, it's very true. Because I'm not showing Ravelry screenshots, and I won't. And trust me, sometimes it makes that difficult. Like when I did the video on Mystical Creation Yarns, I feel a little burp coming, excuse me. Sorry about that, but we're live and I'm drinking coffee. Anyway, but when I was doing my video on Mystical Creation Yarn, a lot of stuff that went on around that story happened on Ravelry. So I had to talk about it, but I couldn't show any screenshots from it, and I wouldn't show any screenshots from it. So sometimes it made it tricky because I was like, I'd really like to have a visual of this. I retyped a lot. But yeah. So my next question is, how do we get our mojo back? Because sometimes, so that's the thing that steals joy from me. I'd love to hear from you the things that steal joy from you that sometimes get in the way of your crafting. Is it comparison like me? I think I've seen some people. In fact, Bear even said I needed to be reminded of this, not to allow comparison to be the thief of joy. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, weaving in ends definitely steals my joy when I'm crafting. Weaving in ends, definitely. That steals my joy. Unfortunately, the only way out of that is through. I just have to buckle down and sit down and do the weaving in the end. Although, you know what? With the weaving in ends, here's the thing that I learn every single time. It's not that bad. I don't know why I build that up in my head so much in terms of weaving in ends and it feeling tedious. Because once I just sit down and buckle down and I start to do it, it's not that bad. And maybe that's another thief of joy that we run into, is our anticipation of what a part of the process is going to be like, right? Like I anticipate that weaving in ends is going to be super tedious. And even though I have learned a million times that's not the case, I still in my mind sit there and go, oh, but it's so tedious. And it's really not. It's just, I need to let go of that hang up, probably. You know, so anticipation sometimes. Sometimes we just anticipate, oh, that technique is going to be so hard, I can't possibly learn it. I think that gets away, and I think that anticipation that something's going to be struggle or is going to be hard, a lot of times will stop crafters, makers, knitters, whatever word you want to use, from trying something new. So many people, you see, like, because I feel like this is the year of color work and stranded color work. I feel like so many times people will sit there and they'll want to try it, but they think, oh, but it's too hard. It's too hard to do this. And don't get me wrong, I think that, sorry, I'm futzing with my scarf. Don't get me wrong, I do think that stranded color work is one of those techniques. It's not necessarily hard to do, but you are having to figure out some new mechanics to your knitting. And so that can be intimidating, and you're anticipating that it being hard and feeling awkward again. And so it's like, well, maybe I don't want to try it. But, you know, and everyone, we all have to decide what challenges we want to take on and what challenges we don't want to take on. Like, and it's totally legitimate to say, I just don't feel like putting in that effort. This is a craft. This is something that most of us are doing, not as a livelihood, but as a place of solace, a place of joy, I hate the word hobby, but as a hobby, that's what most of us are doing. And so, it's totally legitimate to say, I'm really happy in this space. And actually, now that I think about it, I think that is another, well, this actually goes back to the comparison, but I do think that there is a thief of joy sometimes where you feel like, oh, and this is again, like I said, this is about comparing yourself, where you sit there and you're like, wow, they do, so like, I'm just knitting this little thing, and they look at all these amazing techniques this other person knows. I could never learn that. It's like, well, if you want to, you can learn it. But if you don't want to learn it, that's fine too. Like, this is your craft. You are the boss of your crafting. You get to craft the things that you want to craft. So, anyway, in terms of sometimes though, I do think the thief of joy, sometimes we lose our mojo simply because we're bored, right? It feels like, do I need to knit one more hat? Do I need to knit one more scarf? We just get a little bored. But I think sometimes we lose our mojo because we fall into the comparison trap, the comparison funk, or we fall into the anticipation funk, or what have you. My question, though, is what brings your mojo back? Because this is something I see a lot on knitting groups. This question come up of, I've lost my mojo. How do I get my mojo back? I know for me, the way that I usually get my knitting mojo back is I learn something new. I'm very driven by learning new things. It's very rare for me to work a pattern more than once, simply because once I've done the pattern one time, I feel like I've learned it, I've done it, I've had that experience, I'm ready to start a pattern where I'm going to get to learn something new, or I'm going to get to do something new. So I'm very driven by that. I'm very driven by what's this new technique that I can do. This back here, this that lives behind me on my, this is broomstick lace that I learned how to do. This is the only broomstick lace project I've ever done. And I really enjoy broomstick lace, but I just haven't done more of it because it's like, well, I climbed that mountain. Also, not a lot of broomstick lace patterns out there, which is a shame. I feel like broomstick lace, I'm going off on a tangent now. I do feel like broomstick lace needs a resurgence. The way I feel like Tunisian crochet is seeing a resurgence, I feel like broomstick lace needs a resurgence because it's fun. And it's really a crochet technique, but it does involve knitting needles. So it kind of feels like a combination, a hybrid of knitting and crochet, even though really 98% of it is crochet. But it's fun. It's a fun technique. And really stunning, stunning results. Actually, let me take this off. You can see everything on it. Okay. So this section here was worked side to side. Like this, right? Is that right? Yeah. So this back portion here is worked side to side. And you can see the basic broomstick lace technique. There we go. You can see it. That is used through here. But yeah, it's really pretty. And there's a lot of neat things you can do with it because down here you get a more lacy effect. But it's still broomstick lace. It's just how the stitches were worked into, and twisted, created a more lacy effect. So it's so gorgeous. I love this piece. I do. That's why you can see this is some real traditional looking broomstick lace up here with this. This is actually the really traditional looking broomstick lace, like right here where I'm not showing it off well. This is a less than ideal circumstance to be showing this off. Would you want a video? Broomstick lace renaissance. Yes. There's a question. Oh, I'm always looking for video ideas. Would you like just like an introduction to broomstick lace? Just like the basics, a basic stitch pattern of it. I could do that video. I'd be happy to do that video. But yeah, learning new things has always been for me the thing that has rejuvenated my crafting mojo, my knitting mojo in particular. What about you? I'd love to hear what helps you get your mojo back. Miranda Pratt wrote, I struggle with gendered marketing on patterns. By the time I have a pattern and yarn, I don't want to make the thing because of how it's marketed. Yeah, you know, I think that's a really interesting conversation within the knitting and crochet world, but I think also the fashion world. I mean, you know, I think just how gendered knitting is in general as a craft, which, you know, it's, God, it's so hard because I feel like on the one hand, I have a very strong feeling about the way that knitting is kind of treated as like, oh, that's something women do. And we almost seek validation by pointing out, well, men do it too. And I feel like we should be able to value knitting because it is something that women do, right? On the other hand, yeah, I don't love necessarily how gendered things are. Even colors. By the way, I don't like how we gender colors. Something I am personally working on in terms of describing colors and patterns is to get away from the words, this is very masculine, this is very feminine, because that's such a social construct. What we consider feminine versus masculine is very much determined by societal norms. For example, take the color pink. Take the color pink. The color pink back in the day, like I think, I'm so bad at dates, but I think late 1800s at the very least, pink was actually considered a male color. All right? That was the norm in like England and Western Europe, that pink was a male color. And that blue was more of a feminine color, you know? So why, how it flipped, I do not know. But now we have this strong association of pink being feminine and blue being masculine, when at the end of the day, they're just colors. They're just colors. And we really, like, people should wear the colors that make them happy. I really love the fact that I grew up with a dad who wore pink polo shirts. And I love that my husband, he's from Miami, he wears pink polo shirts. I love that. Bear wrote, getting back on topic, Looking through old knitting skill books or stitch dictionaries have helped motivated me. Same, Bear. I am the same. I love looking at stitch dictionaries and old pattern books. Stitch dictionaries in particular, because I see a stitch pattern, I'm like, ooh, that's so pretty. I want to put that in a sock, or I want to put that in something. And speaking of, I happen to have it with me. My sock that I've been working on. If you follow me on social media, I finished the gusset. I did a flap and gusset, but this is the stitch pattern that I'm using. So there we go. And this is German twist cabling technique. And do I have the book here? I should. This is it. It comes from this book. This is Twisted Stitch Knitting. And this is a stitch dictionary, all with German twist cabling stitch patterns. And it's such a cool cabling technique. Oh, in fact, there's right here. This is the stitch pattern. That's the, is it? Oh no, that's not the one. This is similar, but that's not the one. I really like that one too. But this is such a fun cabling technique because unlike other cabling techniques, it only uses, you only cross 1, 2, maybe 3 stitches at a time. And oftentimes you can do this cabling technique without a cable needle, which is so, so fun. And the other thing is it involves twisted stitches. So you use all these stitches here that are part of the motif. Those are all twisted stitches. So I love this technique, and I really wanted to use it in a sock where I would run it down the side and along a gusset. I'm actually knitting a flap and gusset. It's been years since I've done a flap and gusset, but I thought it was time. Kathleen wrote, sometimes I switch crafts for a bit. If my knitting mojo is gone, I'll just spin for a while, etc. Yes, I've done the same thing. Sometimes it helps just to try something else for a while and come back to knitting. I actually spent an entire year just seed beading. I didn't knit anything, and I just worked on my seed bead jewelry. In fact, do I have something else in my jewelry to show? No, I don't. Because it's something, that's one thing. When my daughter was born, finding a way to seed bead became much more difficult because it's hard to seed bead with an active child around because you do not want those things falling and spilling all over the place. But yeah, sometimes, again, though, crafting, doing something else, coming back can really help kind of mixing things up. In fact, now I try to mix up my crafts where it's like, yes, I have a knitting project, but I also have a Tunisian crochet project, a couple of other things going on so that I don't get into a rut with any one thing. Oh, Jillian is here, of course, with the history of how pink flipped to feminine. The story of how pink flipped genders is a fascinating story. I won't say details here because lots of triggers. It has to do with World War II. Oh, and pink triangles. It is important history, though. Yeah. That is good to know. I kind of can suss out from what you were saying based on it. But yeah, it is interesting how that happened. And sorry, I'm a little all over a little all over the place as I respond to things. But yeah, I think that, you know what else has sometimes stolen a little bit of my knitting joy, and I know this is a big conversation in the knitting world, has been size inclusivity. And yeah, it's just, there's so many, I don't knit sweaters generally. The reason I tend not to knit sweaters is because when I look at the sizing, even when I've been at my thinnest, I still have looked at it and go, well, that ain't gonna fit my bust. And I do not feel like redesigning a pattern to get the right bust shape made for me. So I just don't bother. But that is something, it's like, yeah, I'm busty. I'm busty, okay? I'm busty. And a lot of patterns are not well designed for that. And it's getting better. I love that that conversation is going on in the knitting community. I love that you're starting to see more size inclusivity. I know it's not an easy thing to do from the designer perspective, but I think that it's important to do because, you know, crafters, knitters, crocheters, we come in all shapes and sizes, and we all deserve to be able to make things that we feel good wearing. So, oh, I just had this thought. It's gone. Sorry. I had a thought and it just flitted away. Let's see. We're at the halfway mark. So I showed you my sock. I don't know. I'm really just enjoying chatting today. Really just enjoying the chatting. But no, I had a thought, and it had to do with, we're talking about size inclusive. I was talking about size inclusivity. It's gone. I hate when that happens. Sorry, guys. Sorry. It's my brain. It happens sometimes. But yes, anybody else with advice on getting Mojo back, what you do, things that steal your crafting joy, love to hear about it. If not, I think we can start Pattern Spotlight. Oh, Meredith said, I have the same issue with let me just bring this up. I have the same issues with patterns, or I look at how many skeins of yarn I will need for my size and then start looking for something I can make with what I've got. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you on that. I feel you on that. You know, sometimes I admit there's a pattern I see and I don't, okay, confession, sometimes I don't feel like buying yarn. Like, I go through periods of time where I'm like, I just don't feel like buying yarn. And so I only want to use what I already have in my stash. And that can be really good for stash busting, but it also can be a little limiting in terms of what projects I can then work. Because when I buy yarn on spec, I have a real tendency to just buy sock yarn, which is not a bad thing since I love knitting socks. But yeah, there's definitely times where it's just like, oh, that's a lot. But you know, here's the thing. I have never finished. I knitted one cardigan that I kind of designed myself that was all squares. I knitted a bunch of squares and rectangles and sewed them together. And it was kind of a fun project and very easy to do. There was no shaping. It's like wearing a big cotton blanket. It's so comfy. I'd show it to you, but it's in another room. But aside from that, I have never knitted a sweater. And frankly, I don't think I'm a less accomplished knitter because I've never knitted garments. I know what I was going to talk about. Something that sometimes steals my joy is I feel a little selfish because of how rarely I knit things for other people. I would say 98% of the times when I knit something, I knit it for myself. I'm going to wear it. I want to keep it. I want to have it. And then I feel guilty because I know people don't ask me. I don't know why, but I've never had friends and family who have sat there and asked me necessarily to knit things for them. I would be happy to do it. I really would. But I had to go into a project planning to give it to somebody for me to give it away. I'm very much that way about my knitting. I'm very selfish about my knitting. So yeah, I'm very selfish when it comes to my crafting, where like most of the time I want to keep it for myself. And I tell people, I'm like, you're a really special person in my life if I knit something for you or I make something for you and you haven't asked for it. Because I don't do that for just anybody. I don't. So yeah, I don't know if that really steals my joy. I think I just feel guilty about it. I think I feel guilty that I'm a bit of a selfish crafter in that way. All right, so I think it is definitely time for Pattern Spotlight. Let me make sure I have my things set up properly so we can go through this nicely. There's not a whole lot of new patterns out. I'm just making sure I got my, but there are some lovely patterns that have come out since the last live stream. So let's get that going. Let's see, this one, yes. So first up, right on the website, we have Liz Cork Knits. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, but the Cranachon shawl, and it's just lovely. Look how lovely this is. If you have been wanting to try out lace knitting, I think this could be a perfect project. It's an asymmetrical triangle shawl, but it has just a little bit of lace border, and then the rest of it looks, is it garter stitch? The rest of it looks like garter stitch, and it's just lovely. And let's see, right here. Here it is. We'll go to the Etsy shop because then I can zoom in on the photos because I can't do that from my website. But you can get a better look at the lace here. Come on. Let's do this. Oops. There we go. So it's a very, straightforward little zigzag eyelet lacy pattern. So this is, if you haven't tried lace before, this would be, I think, a really good introduction to it. And I love that her photos, she shows a bunch of different ways that you could wear this shawl. Because I think sometimes we love the idea of knitting shawls, but we don't know how to wear them. I know I fall into that. I love this draping with a shawl. I think that's just so lovely. And that shawl pin is like phenomenal. Such great photo. Isn't it fun? So all the comparison. I never am sad looking at designer pattern photos because I'm just like, they're a designer. Of course they're going to be that amazing. All right. So that is, again, the sale is over. That ended last week. Well, a few days ago, but still gorgeous, gorgeous shawl. So we're going to scroll down. And next we have a new hat pattern from Victoria Marchant Knits. And it's the Rose Hill. Again, another little bit of lace detail. Let me get to this one. Here we go. Her website, so we can see more photos of it, and hopefully zoom in on those photos. There we go. Yeah, and this is a cute little hat. Again, a nice little lacy detail to it. It has ribbing pattern, but it has this eyelet in it, and it has this swirl crown, which is lovely. It's a fun little detail when you have a swirl like that. I really like in this crown shaping for this hat that you actually, because a lot of times with swirls or crown shaping in general, you have 4 to 6 decrease lines, but this one has far more than that, and I think it gives the swirl a little bit more elegance than sometimes you see with this sort of crown shaping. But yeah, I think that's a lovely crown. Oh, and here you can see a close-up of this little bit of eyelet lacy detail that is in the brim ribbing. Really nice. Again, this would be really good for someone who just is starting to explore lace and lacy knitting, because you just get a little taste of it, pretty straightforward, and then you get, to have a nice little run of straightforward knitting. So, and then our last new pattern, yeah, okay, is this. This is the pattern that just got released this week that isn't up on the website yet. I'm going to put it up after the live stream is over. But this is from Germander CC, and this is her tied line shawl. So another shawl. And it's lovely. It's really lovely. The tie line shawl is an asymmetrical shawl inspired by the British coastline and the work of Potter Ros Dowen. I hope I'm pronouncing the potter's name correctly. But yeah, it's really lovely. Here you can see her wearing it. Let's see. I love that it's like a nice, simple striped color work, but I like that the stripes are different sizes. I think that's always fun with stripes when you have different size stripes within the pattern. And I could be wrong, but I think that's garter stitch. I think it's just garter stitch. So a lovely shawl pattern. And yeah. And let's see. Solo. Bear wrote, guilty of not knowing how best to wear a shawl. Yeah, I'm guilty of it. I tend to, with triangular shawls, go with the bandana kind of thing where you just have it pointed down and you tie the other two ends behind your neck. So you kind of get that bandana scarf look. That tends to be my go-to. But I think there's far more elegant ways of wearing shawls than I tend to do. I'm sure there's videos. I'm sure there are videos on YouTube on how to wear shawls. Yeah. You know what else? This just occurred to me talking about shawls. Something I do think that sometimes steals a little knitting joy is when people talk about certain types of knitting being like old-fashioned or for old women, like shawls, for example. I see this a lot where it's like, oh, I don't know, shawls just seems like such an old woman thing. And it's like, first of all, let's not be ageist about these things. Let's just start with that. But I think that it's also not true. I think that we can obviously wear shawls and style them in such a way that feels more modern and up to date than maybe we perceive. But that is also something that is just so annoying in knitting in general. This whole perception about knitting being for grandmas, right? Old women. And it's like, and don't get me wrong, there's a certain amount of ageism in that, and it's wonderful that older women knit. But it's not just old women in knit. It's not like you turn 50 and someone hands you a pair of knitting needles and your life is over as a modern woman. You know, like you're going to get shoved up in an attic. It's not your last effable day when you pick up your knitting needles. Because sometimes it's treated that way. And it shouldn't be. And sometimes it's treated like, oh, you knit? Did you reach your last effable day? If you don't know what that sketch is I'm referencing, it is hilarious. It's a sketch with, let's see, oh God, I'm blanking on all their names, but it's a bunch of Hollywood women who are like in their late 30s, early 40s, and they talk about how they've reached their last effable day. So brilliant. So brilliant. Miranda wrote, my mother and both my grandmothers would never have worn a shawl, but I do, and so do my sisters. We're all under 40. Exactly. My grandmothers never wore a shawl. Never in my life did I see my grandparents wear shawls. And my mom does not wear a shawl. I've never seen my mom wear a shawl in her life. Palazzo pants, yes. Shawls, no. But yeah, I mean, but I love wearing, like, I'm like the scarf and shawl queen. Like, that is like what I am known for. That is my, when I've had to work in offices, back before, you know, the before times when I worked in offices and not from home, my signature was the wide array of shawls and scarves that I wore. That was like my signature look. Because it's an easy way to dress up a t-shirt. And I wear a lot of t-shirts because I'm busty and that's easy to fit around. So, okay. So yeah, let's see. One last thing I wanted to highlight. This is not a new pattern release, but it is a knit along that is going on that there's still time to take part in if you would like. Oops. Nope. Add to stream. There we go. This is from Sarah Dawn's Design. This is her May pattern of the month. It's currently on sale, 50% off, and it is, oh, another one's coming. Excuse me. Colors of Spring Shawl. This is worked in a fingering weight, sock weight, gradient garter stitch, and lace shawl. And I just think it's so cool. It's really long. It has a lovely lacy pattern to it. I feel like this shawl is like perfect for the spring. One of the things I love about shawls in the springtime is a lot of times, at least in LA, where our weather right now is all over the place, but whatever. At night in particular, it can still get nippy in the air, and having something like a shawl that you can hang around your neck, and then if it gets too nippy, you can then like kind of pull down and wrap around yourself more to give you another layer is really, really great. One of the reasons too I also like shawls quite a bit is because working in offices, not right now because, you know, the world, but when I did work in offices, it was really nice to have something like this because I work mostly in, I have a tweet about this. What I do for a living to pay bills for the last umpteenth years of my life has been to work in reality television. I probably have mentioned this on the channel before. And I work with editors building stories, the stories. And, oh God, the temperature range in a post facility can go from like Arctic to Sahara Desert. There's no in between. It's either freezing cold or it's hotter than heck. And so having layers like a shawl for that sort of situation is just super, super helpful. But yeah, this is Sarah Dawn's May pattern of the month. She does have a make along, knit along going along with it. So there's still time to get this 50% off. And if you want, take part in her knit along. There's links to everything about her knit along on my website, knitswhereit'sat.com/fiberhappenings. So yeah. So that's everything for Pattern Spotlight, and we still have like 9 more minutes left. Wow, I really went through. I gotta say, I want to thank you all for being here today and really being engaged in the conversation, the chat. This, for me personally, has been a really fun knit tea live. They're all fun. They're all fun. But this one I found has been particularly a good time. So thank you so much for really being engaged. I so appreciate you. And if you're watching this on the replay, the conversation does not have to end. I read my comments. I respond all the time. So please feel free to comment down below. So what is coming up next for the channel? So I'm right now hard at work on my next new video upload, which should come out next Friday. It should. It'll definitely come out sometime. If not on Friday, it might be a little late. And here's why. I'm doing a video on working with 2 circular needles for working in the round. This is a technique I love. I'll bring up my sock again. Confession, I started this sock on a 9-inch circular, and I got to this portion, and I'm like, F this. I am done with the 9-inch circular. I'm going back to my happy place, which is knitting with 2 circular needles. This is my favorite way to knit socks, is on 2 circular. So I have a video coming up where I, explain how to work with 2 circulars, give some of my tips and tricks for making it work for me. And I love this technique. So that is the video that I'm working on. When I shot it, I was shooting an overhead like you do when you're doing these types of, knitting tutorials. And I went to go download my videos onto the computer to edit. And turns out, like, the middle portion, I wasn't recording after all. So I had to reshoot some overhead for it. But I should get it done in time. It'll be fine. But yeah, I was so bummed. But that is my next video upload, is talking about knitting with 2 circular needles. I think this is a way of knitting small circumferences that doesn't get enough attention, and not enough people even know that this is a option. It's kind of similar to Magic Loop, but I think it's better than Magic Loop, if you want to know the truth. Not everyone loves it, but that's okay. Not all knitting techniques are for all people, but it's good if you're trying to find the right knitting technique for you to try different things out. So we'll be going over that next week. Most likely there will not be a Knit Tea Live next week. And I am experimenting with a new video thing. It still involves knitting, but yesterday I shot a video of me going through the movie Misery and kind of breaking down all the knitwear in it. So I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to edit that together, but that is something I'm definitely looking forward to. Oh, JillianEve has at last stealing joy. Technical malfunctions steal my joy too. Yes, yes. Technical malfunctions definitely steal joy. I still remember, I don't have them near me, but I had a technical malfunction a few months ago. I was working on a project and my interchangeable needle tip was bent almost 45 degrees. Still do not know how it got bent, but I was definitely not joyful in that moment when I discovered that. I was like, and technical malfunctions have definitely stolen my joy many times during Knit Tea Live. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I'm not sure how I'm going to edit together, but I am working on a video where I go through the movie Misery and kind of break down all the amazing knitwear moments, because let me tell you, that movie has like amazing knitwear moments in it. Like amazing. I like give the costume designer so much credit on that film for the amazing knitwear in it. And that's a question, because I would like to do more videos like that potentially, depending on how this one does. What are movies that you think have amazing knitwear moments in them? Love to hear that either down below in the comments or in the last few minutes here on Knit Tea Live. Because as you may have figured out, I'm doing a little bit of filler right now because I got through the pattern spotlight pretty quickly today. And I want to give this a full hour. So yeah, that's what is coming up on my channel. What else? I think that's everything. I think I might just wrap things up a little bit early today, a couple minutes early, unless anybody else has any questions they want to ask. You can ask me anything in the last couple of minutes, or any last comments, anything at all. But I'm going to start getting into the wrap up itself. So thank you so much for joining me. If you have not already, please make sure that you give this video a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Subscribing, hitting the notification bell does two things. A, it's a great free way to support my channel and this growing community. And it ensures that you never miss a new video or live stream. And you don't miss my community posts. I now have a community tab, because when you hit 1,000 subscribers, you get a community tab. So now I have a community tab. So you never miss a post on my community tab. So lots of ways. You can also find me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram. I'm very active there. You can always find me there, see little updates on my knitting projects, on my makeup looks, on various things. Twitter, you find out all sorts of weird things about me there. Also, oh, I didn't even mention, I totally forgot to mention, I have Super Chat on. I'm so bad at those things. I hate, because I don't like doing the plugs, so I'm really bad at doing the plugs. But I do have Super Chat on. Super Chat is kind of a live way of giving me a tip while doing this to help support the channel. But if you're watching on replay and you'd like to leave me a tip to help support the channel and the website, you can always buy me a coffee. You can find that link to the Buy Me a Coffee down in the description box. Thank you so much to everyone who's ever bought me a coffee. And the thing about that is, on my Buy Me a Coffee, I always have a goal of what I'm saving those tips up for. Right now, I'm saving up tips to fund another year of my website. So any tips that I receive will be earmarked for that purpose. And you ever want to know what I'm saving up for, you can always find that on the Buy Me a Coffee. So yeah, also if you'd like to support the channel and you're going to be doing any shopping on a website with which I am an affiliate, you can always click on one of my affiliate links. And what happens, you click on an affiliate link, you go to that website. If you make a purchase, then I make a small commission, and those commissions help support the channel and what I'm doing here and growing this community. It helps me buy better equipment and just improve everything. Because that's my goal, is to make the best channel that I can so we can all enjoy this together. So yes, those are all ways that you can help support the channel if you'd like. So, last couple of comments. So we're going to just do these last 2 comments and we'll do final goodbyes. Just that I tend to spot out knit or crochet times I see in movies or TV. Then I fixate on how it was made instead of what's going on in the story. Yeah, she's talking about, this is in relation to me talking about knitwear moments and film and television. You know what I really get distracted by? And maybe we'll talk about this the next Knit Tea Live. Maybe this will be at the topic. When I see bad knitting on a film or television, I'm just like, did you do no research? And last comment from Gabriel Garver, you made me laugh hard, Carrie, regarding interchangeable needle tip. Hilarious. Yeah, it was funny in hindsight. At the moment, I was devastated. But it's all good now. So, yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I hope you have a great week ahead. Yeah, okay. And as always, happy health and happy knitting. Bye.